My whole world is exploding because I thought confession was supposed to be private. Does the priest have any kind of liability or responsibility? Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over 3 different stories, 2 of which are about 2 women that are furious because their priests sold them out and told their husbands that they were cheating on them. They admitted it during confession, and as you can imagine, they're blaming everybody else but them for the actual cheating. And the third story, the grand finale here, is about a woman who is, wait for it, having a relationship, cheating on her husband with her priest. So all sorts of crazy stuff in this Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0 world. So the first one, title is, Priest Broke Confession Seal and Told Husband That I Cheated. Starts off, she says, I cheated on my husband 3 years ago while traveling for work. It was a one-night stand and we didn't exchange numbers or keep it in contact. I don't even know his last name. Until last month, I never told anyone about this event. At the time I cheated, I didn't really care because my marriage was rocky and I felt unappreciated. But my husband and I reconnected during quarantine and I started to feel extremely guilty. So notice that I didn't feel appreciated. Well, where was the actual communication that's important in relationships? Expressing in words he understands that you're not happy. You didn't do it. So they went and hooked up with some guy. And the old thing about women and accountability, you're going to see right here in the story. Last month, I thought I would try going to confession with my parish priest. He said I needed to tell my husband as part of my penance. I wasn't really sure how to do that, so I sat on it. There you go. Last weekend, I came home to my husband throwing all my stuff out of the bedroom and trying to kick me out of the house. He knows everything. Apparently, the priest followed up to see that I told my husband, and when my husband said he didn't understand what the priest was talking about, he told my husband about the affair. My whole world is exploding because I thought confession was supposed to be private. Does the priest have any kind of liability or responsibility? I'm in Maryland. Liability and responsibility translation, I want to sue him for this. Now, it is supposed to be in confession. Things are kept on the down low between you and the priest. I'm not Catholic. I wasn't raised Catholic, but that's what I've heard. So yeah, he obviously is supposed to keep his mouth shut. But what I find amusing here is the fact that, number one, he told her, you need to go tell your husband you want to repair the marriage. Did she do it? No. And 2, it gets out, the husband's kicking her ass out, and who's she blaming? Everybody in the world but her, right? The old thing about accountability. So, and again, back to the beginning, how things were going well with the marriage. So she is hooked up with the guy. And you know, you got to understand about when it comes to women is that they are all big about being in the moment. How many times have you guys heard a girl say to you at some point when you're younger, oh, I was just feeling that in the moment. Something like that, right? Or how they're driven by emotions. Well, who do we know are typically operate by how they feel in the moment and are driven by their emotions? Children. That's how children behave. But the difference is they are children, they are young, and they're just getting in touch with life and their emotions and feelings, not grown-ass adults using those childish traits to justify their actions. So a lot of times when I compare the ladies to behaving like children, it's pretty dead on. So we shall see how this whole thing turns out. Next story, same type of situation. This one's titled, My Priest Told My Husband I Cheated. Says, a few years ago, I screwed up and cheated on my husband. I got caught, admitted it, and ended all communication with that person. It's been rocky to say the least, and every day he still looks at me like it just happened. Well, you can't blame the guy. He says he's depressed and dealing with PTSD from it. He says he's forgiven me, but lives with the fact that he hates having to come home to see me every day. That he thinks about the affair every single day. See? He can't get out of his head. That's why these stories, guys, when I say she cheats, it's over, it's because the guy's never going to get out of his head. He's never going to trust her. Every time she's on her phone, he's going to be thinking, who's she talking to? Every time she goes out, he's going to think, who's she with? Who is she really with? When he maybe gets over it, supposedly gets over it, and they're hooking up, he's going to imagine that other dude's you know what in her mouth. You get my point. So, of course, he's not going to get over it. So you think she would? If he was hooking up with some chick, you think she'd get over that overnight? No. He's been controlling. He's been a controlling and narcissistic guy with lots of gaslighting, which attributed to why I cheated. It's your fault I cheated, not mine. That's the gaslighting going on. And maybe he was a jerk. Then you end it with him. It doesn't give me the right, but that was the source of my pain. I amended my life thanks be to God. He is a forgiving God. My husband doesn't believe that the change in me and thinks it's a show. Well, you can't blame him. Now, after all this has happened, he says he knows I had you-know-what with other men, when indeed I have not. After all this time, he's bowing, saying he knows I'm lying, since he went to a priest friend for counsel, soon after finding out what my husband told me, that he was certain I had cheated. The priest apparently told him that I had actually cheated on him with other men as well. Well, where would the priest get that idea, huh? Great girl. And again, is it any wonder her husband doesn't trust her? Now, this husband needs to end it with her. Okay? Because this is just going to eat him alive. And obviously her actions show that she can't be trusted. The only affair I had was the one that my husband knows of. I never told this priest that I had an affair, and if he did tell my husband, he's breaking the law of confidence. I've known this priest for many years, and he's known of my past, even before I married my husband. So I don't know if the priest was reflecting on my past, or if my husband was lying in order to trick me to confess to something. Well, what about her past? While we're on the subject, what was going on in her past? Clearly her husband doesn't know a whole lot about her past, but apparently the priest does. Now my husband feels that he can't trust me even more and is avoiding me at all costs. The situation that makes this even harder is that the priest, who I was an amazing and holy priest, has since died. I'll be talking to another priest soon, but I feel like no matter what I do, there's no hope for our marriage to heal. Feeling continuously anxious and confused. Well, here's the answer. End it. Now, obviously, she's Catholic, and there's issues there, and I'm not Catholic, so I don't know how that whole thing works, but nobody's happy here. When nobody's happy, nobody's going to trust each other and all that, and what is the deal with the sirens today? It's best to move forward. Move on. That's what I meant to say. Because it's just going to keep eating at these people over and over and over again. There's a point it just doesn't work. Two people don't work. Some people just can't change their ways. Time to move on. Now the last one, the icing on the cake, the grand finale. Titled, My Wife Had an Affair with a Priest and I Don't Know What to Do. Smack. What do you mean you don't know what to do? She's hooking up with the priest? You gotta be pretty bad in bed, dude, if she's already hooking up with a priest instead of you. Or he's he's very charming with his sermons. What do you mean you don't know what to do? Guys, this is about a guy who finds out that, yes, his wife is hooking up with a priest. This sounds more like an adult film, but truth is stranger than fiction. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, so here we go. It says here, I live in a medium-sized town in Central Europe, and I have 2 kids, one kindergarten age and one in primary school. My wife and I have been together for approximately 15 years now. One day after Christmas, my wife took the kids to her parents and told me she needed to tell me something. Then she confessed that she had an affair with a priest from our local municipality. Wow, Merry Christmas. What a great thing to tell somebody during that time of the year. She's a sweet gal. This has been going on for 2 months, but she claimed that she had loved him for nearly 2 years. Naturally, I had not noticed anything. Now the nasty details. Number 1, it was in fact the priest, not her, who first told her that he loved her. Well, no surprise she's putting it on him, not her. Number 2, he did so upon the advice of a coach working for the church. She's saying that there was an actual coach that told him to go hook up with another man's wife. I don't believe that for a second. Number 3, he is 20 years older than her. Number 4, he is married, several children living in his household. If this part's true that he pursued her and all that, and if these other things about the kids, you want to talk about a freaking lowlife. But then again, she's a lowlife too. Number 5, they had, 3 times, once in our house while I was in my office and twice elsewhere while I was watching the kids, which my wife had asked me to do because she needed some time for herself. The priest is banging his wife in his house, and another time when she asked him to go away so she could have her time to herself. Who are these people? Where do they come from? I mean, good Lord. She claims she loves the man more than she's ever loved me. Well, that's a dagger through the heart. Next one, she said, she told me that when the wife of the priest had already found out about it, it was only a matter of time before she would inform me. Even then, she withheld information, I repeatedly caught her lying about other details. So what does this guy do? He tries to make it work. How do you make it work after that? She's nailing the priest. We did not break up immediately afterwards, because I love her dearly and feel strong responsibility to our small children. Their tiny world would shatter if their parents broke up. So there was a lot of arguing, shouting, and some broken porcelain. But eventually we decided to move on and try to revive our relationship. So did the priest and his wife. Smack. Yeah, good luck with that one. It's always about the kids, and certainly nobody wants their kids to go through a divorce and pain and all that. Of course not. But when mom and dad hate each other's guts and there's fighting and mistrust and all this ugliness, it's better they break up. Kids then can see the parents a little bit better, a little bit happier, not together and miserable, because those kids one day will be like the parents. That's usually how it works. The first day afterwards were pretty good, even so good that she called them a second honeymoon. She was very relieved that I decided to swallow the pain and continue with her. She was relieved, of course, because you're not divorcing her. That's why. So she'd have to deal with the public embarrassment, amongst other things. And she enjoyed to see that I immediately changed the things that she had criticized me on, which according to her, statements were responsible for her loving me less and for falling in love with the priest. Smack. He's going and changing things about himself to make her happy and using those. That's what that's why she cheated on him. That's what he's going with here. You gotta be kidding me. This guy more and more is deserving the treatment he's getting here by being such a whip bitch. However, the more time passes, the more detached she's becoming of me. At first she claimed she was lovesick from having to part with her lover priest. Then she claimed our relationship had been broken long before she fell in love with that priest, which had been an escape and a cry for help. So, also, that I had hurt her too often, and that she was surprised that I said I still loved her. Here's the deal. The reason she cheated is because she was not in love with her husband, because she was obviously unhappy. It's not an excuse, but that's what was going on. And she was getting the attention from the priest and all that. This is not working. Move on. End of story. Regarding her injuries, we argued a lot, and I'm someone who can say unpleasant things in a very precise way, which indeed tends to hurt people. I do, however, not resort to swearing, and I would never hit a woman. Basically, her injuries were disagreements where I refused to give in. Most of them were about small things such as evening plans, but these arguments often ended in tears. So these injuries she's calling me is basically her not getting her way. And when she doesn't get her way, she cries. I'm also someone who works a lot in an office job, so I'm not as home as much. Or if I was mentally absent because I was too tired, simply could not make myself interested in the stories she told, which were often about people I do not know, or about the same problems as she has told me about over and over again. He says here she is someone who tends to lament over problems instead of resolving them. Newsflash, that's a lot of gals. I personally had recognized that we had problems, but I was far from seeing our relationship as broken. In fact, I was in balance quite happy. Well, that's a typical guy thing to say. The guy completely has no idea that there are problems going on. And, guys make mistakes too. Absolutely, I'm not denying it for a second. But instead of communicating a way he understands, she does other things. And then does other people. During the last few days, she has now told me that she never loved me as much as I love her, and she does not often like it when I was close to her, even in our house. This is the reason why she often avoided me sexually and in other matters. This has started about 7 years ago. When she told me, I immediately recognized what she meant. She indeed had been acting like this for a long time. However, she always claimed that it was my fault because I was too pushy. You notice there's been no accountability here about anything she's doing wrong. It's always about what this guy's doing wrong. Isn't that interesting? This is not someone that you be in a relationship with, because they're takers. They're users. This guy I'm sure isn't perfect, but at least he's trying. But it's all about him. It's his fault. It's his fault. You did this. You did that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Therefore, excuses my actions. Our current situation is that she will now speak to a family counselor to find out what she wants. I'm supposed to wait until she takes that decision. If you're a real freaking man, you say, no. Number one, we're done. But if he's not going to do that, you say, no, you're going to make a decision right now. I'm done with this bullshit. You were cheating on me with a freaking priest in our own house, and I gave it a second chance, and you still can't figure it out, and you need time to make a decision. You're going to make a decision right now by the count of 3, and I'm being nice with that 3. And if you make that decision by 3, that's it. We're done. Now, this is on the basis that he obviously didn't walk at her before. Frankly, the second he heard that she was cheating with a priest, no doubt, should have been over. The gossip of the village. But if he's given her that second chance, which is dumb, then you make a decision in 3 seconds. Otherwise, we're done. This guy isn't exactly the type of guy that I have molded from my other channel. This guy's got a lot of work to do. Very pee-whipped. Very clueless. I'm completely devastated by now. 2 weeks ago, I was living in a seemingly good life with a great family. Now, all I have is a pile of shards. I still love my wife. Smack. What do you mean you love your wife? She doesn't love you. She doesn't show love through her actions. I still love my wife, even if I struggle to find a good reason for it after all this happened. I can't bear to think what would happen to the kids if we split. And I have nonstop violent fantasies about that effing priest. Your kids will be okay. Many kids go through divorce and they're okay. You just got to be there for them. The worst part of that is that the circumstances make it quite literally like she would take the kids for most of the time, which would make me a weekend dad. I detest this thought. It's like being subjected to the worst parts of being a dad while not getting the parts that are so magical and beautiful. At this point, I seek your advice on how to save my marriage and family. Any advice how to seriously F this priest over legally is also welcome. Thanks. Well, he asked, here it is. You can't save it. It's done. Because also, she's a selfish asshole. And everything's your fault. She's not taking any accountability for her actions. Now, this is him telling the story, but something tells me that he's actually being accurate about this. So it's over. Walk away. Talk to a lawyer, figure out the laws of the land, good, bad, or ugly, and then you find a place where you can stay temporarily, what the money situation will be. And yeah, she may get the kids, and you may be the weekend dad. That sucks, and that's how unfair things are. But it's better than being married to a woman that regularly lies to you, cheats on you, makes you look like a fool, because she'll do it again, guaranteed. There's no making her happy. You can tell right there through her actions she's not happy. But no guy should deal with this bullshit, but so many do. And I respect they want to make their kids happy, and that's nice. But what about them? They're going to be miserable their whole lives, being with some witch, right? And those kids are going to pick up on it. Those kids are going to see how unhappy both mom and dad are. And then guaranteed that will be their lives one day. So if you really love your kids, you don't want them to be in a relationship like this one day, because they'll think this is just how it is. And they'll attract people into their lives that have a relationship with turmoil, just like you and the wife, because they think that's normal. And people stick to what they're used to. Best thing this dude can do, again, talk to a lawyer, find out good, bad, or ugly, what are his options, and find a way, because men can be strong and move on. Plenty have done it before, plenty will do it again. And it's unfortunate how the marriage laws are all over the world. Every place is a little different. But men tend to get raked over the coals. That's why, in my opinion, I do on marriage in the 2020s. So, a lot of crazy stuff here. The women in the beginning complaining that the priests let the husbands know, which, yeah, it's going against their code and vows, but I still find kind of funny, especially how they reacted to it. That's his fault, not theirs for cheating. And now we have a woman hooking up with a priest. You know, I don't know what the deal. These must be some very charming priests. I don't know what the deal is there. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you come across a really good story like to share, email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just be sure to make it easy for me to read, or post the links in the description in the email, and I'll definitely use them down the road. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.